Good evening and welcome. Tonight I'm going to be reading to you from this book called Focus on Turkey. And this book is a little bit old. It's about 20 years old actually. So I'm just going to be reading to you these first few chapters about Turkey in overview, the history, and the landscape and climate. Yeah, I do have a little boo-boo here on my finger. Just ignore that. Let's get into it. Chapter 1, Turkey, an overview. Turkey lies at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, a unique geographical location that has shaped both its history and culture. Since ancient times, Turkey has been a center of civilization, trade, and travel. In 1923, the Turkish parliament formally declared the country a republic, and Mustafa Kemal, later known as Ataturk, which means father of the Turks, who had led the Turks to victory in the War of Independence, was elected president. Geography. Much of Turkey covers a large mountainous peninsula called Anatolia or Asia Minor, which borders Syria and Iraq to the south, and Iran, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia to the east. A small part of the country is made up of Thrace, which is part of Europe, and which borders Greece and Bulgaria. Turkey has 4,474 miles of coastline extending along the Mediterranean, Aegean, Marmara, and Black Seas. The country has several large cities including Istanbul, Ankara, which is the capital, Izmir, Bursa, Adana, Gaziantep, and Konya, as well as areas of rich farmland, but much of the country is high plateau or mountains. The east and southeast are less developed, and therefore poorer than the more densely populated western and southern regions. A secular republic. Turks started to migrate into Anatolia in the 11th century, bringing with them the religion of Islam, which came to replace Christianity as the dominant religion in the region. One group, the Ottoman Turks, emerged as a major force in the 14th century. The Ottomans crossed into Europe in 1360 and made Edirne their capital. In 1453, their leader, Sultan Mehmed II, conquered Constantinople, which became the center of the Ottoman Empire. At its height in the 16th century, this empire governed most of Southeast Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. The empire lasted until after the end of World War I, in the aftermath of which the Turkish Republic was born. The architect of the new republic was Mustafa Kemal, who introduced political and cultural changes in order to modernize Turkey. Kemal created a secular country, outlawing some traditional Islamic practices. In spite of the fact that more than 97% of today's population is Muslim, the Turkish Republic has remained a secular state ever since. However, there is ongoing debate in the country between defenders of secularism and those who wish to make Turkey into a more actively Islamic country. Modern Turkey. Turkey is a rapidly developing country that has become industrialized since the 1950s. It has ample mineral reserves and is an important gateway for the flow of commodities such as oil between Europe and Asia. In spite of this, there are huge differences between lifestyles in the wealthy areas of Turkey's west and southwest and the poorer regions of the country's east and southeast. Turkey's government is investing in a huge project in the southeast in order to try to bring more work and prosperity to this region. Turkey is no longer engaged in ongoing negotiations to become a member of the European Union. Yeah, that's done with. That's not happening. Beautiful Turkey. Turkey is a land of great contrasts, from the wild, rugged mountains of the northern coast to the expanses of the Anatolian Plateau and the dramatic scenery of the Aegean coastline. It is also home to some of the world's most famous archaeological sites, including Ephesus and Troy. Each year, millions of tourists come to the country to enjoy all that Turkey has to offer. Fantastic beaches, historical sites, stunning scenery and wildlife, and fascinating cities. Istanbul is a particular attraction, with its long history as the capital of the Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman empires. Chapter 2, History. The history of Turkey is extremely ancient. The region known as Anatolia was home to nomadic hunter-gatherers from as early as 20,000 BCE. One of the oldest known urban settlements is at Çatalhöyük, near present-day Konya. Çatalhöyük dates back to about 6,000 BCE, and from excavations at the site, we know that it was a town of mud brick houses, with a population of about 5,000 people. Metalworking, first copper and later bronze, was introduced to the region around 5000 BCE. Early empires and states. Around 2000 BCE, a people called the Hittites began to migrate from Central Asia into Anatolia. They established an empire with its capital at Hattusas, which is northeast of Ankara, that made them a powerful force in the Middle East. They developed their own cuneiform writing and knew how to work iron. Their empire flourished until about 1200 BCE, after which areas of Anatolia were taken over by various peoples, including the Assyrians, the Phrygians, the Lydians, and the Ionian Greeks. In 546 BCE, the Persians, under their leader Cyrus the Great, conquered part of Anatolia, but the Persians were themselves overthrown by the Greek armies of Alexander the Great in 334 BCE. After Alexander's death in 323 BCE, Anatolia fragmented into a number of independent states, which all eventually became part of the expanding Roman Empire. The Roman Empire. Anatolia became part of the Roman Empire in 133 BCE. During the reign of Emperor Diocletian, the huge Roman Empire was split into eastern and western parts. The empire was reunited as one under Emperor Constantine, who, in 330, created a new imperial capital in the ancient city of Byzantium, known as Constantinople, and known today as Istanbul, on the Bosporus Strait. The Roman Empire was divided again in 395, but the western part was soon overrun by invaders. The eastern half, however, became the Byzantine Empire, which lasted until 1453. The Turks. The Turks were originally nomadic tribal peoples who lived in Central Asia. In about the 7th century, some of these nomads began to migrate westward, and during the 10th century, many of them converted to Islam. In 1055, one group of Turks, the Seljuk Turks, occupied Baghdad, which was at that time the capital of the Islamic world, and established control over a large empire. In 1071, the Seljuk Turks defeated a Byzantine army at the Battle of Manzikert in eastern Anatolia, and extended their territory across much of Anatolia. They brought with them the Turkish language, which gradually replaced Greek, and their religion, Islam, which began to replace Christianity. Various sites were established in Anatolia, the best known being the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, which was based around its capital at Konya. The Crusades. The empire of the Seljuk Turks extended into Syria and Palestine, a region known as the Holy Land to Christians because it was where Jesus had lived and died. The advance of the Seljuk Turks across the Byzantine Empire and further south into the Holy Land prompted the Crusades, a series of wars from the 11th to the 13th centuries. The First Crusade started in 1096 at Constantinople. The Christian armies crossed Anatolia to capture Antioch in 1098, re-establishing Byzantine control across part of the region as they went. However, in the 12th century, the Seljuk sultans inflicted defeats on the Christian armies, and in the following century, the Seljuk Sultanate enjoyed its greatest period both politically and culturally. Seljuk monuments, mostly mosques and caravanserais, can be seen in Konya and elsewhere in Anatolia today. Seljuk rule was interrupted by Asian nomads called the Mongols, who invaded Anatolia and defeated the Seljuks in 1243. The last Seljuk Sultan died in 1308, but by then the growing influence of another group of Turks, the Ottomans, had begun to be felt. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman dynasty was founded by Osman I in the early 1300s. The Ottomans quickly extended their territories and power, and in 1453 they captured Constantinople, bringing the Byzantine Empire to an end. The Ottomans made Constantinople, which they started to call Istanbul, their capital. Under their greatest ruler, Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire covered land from North Africa in the west to Iraq in the east, and northward as far as Hungary. As well as being a skilled military commander, Suleiman was a great patron of the arts and architecture, both of which flourished during his long rule. After the death of Suleiman the Magnificent, the empire began a gradual decline. In 1571, the Ottoman navy was defeated at the Battle of Lepanto by British and Portuguese forces, and in 1683, Ottoman troops were forced to withdraw after an unsuccessful siege of Vienna. Loss of power and territory continued throughout the 18th century. For example, after a series of wars against Russia, the Ottomans were forced to allow Russian ships to have access to their waterways and ports under the terms of the Treaty of Küçük-Kaynarca. In the 19th century, European countries took over a number of territories that had been part of the Ottoman Empire, and Greece and Serbia became independent. An example followed later by Albania, Bulgaria, and Romania. During World War I, the Ottomans fought with the Central Powers, which was Germany and Austria-Hungary, against the Allies, which was Britain, France, and Russia. In 1918, the war ended with the defeat of the Central Powers. The end of empire. At the end of the war, Istanbul was occupied by Allied troops, and in 1919, Greek forces under Allied protection landed at Izmir and advanced inland with the intention of seizing territory. Turkish resistance was organized by Mustafa Kemal, an army general who had played a large part in the Ottoman defeat of the Allies at Gallipoli in 1915. Kemal and his nationalist forces drove the Greeks out of Turkey in 1922, and the Allies formed a new peace treaty with the nationalists. In 1923, the Treaty of Lausanne established the new borders of Turkey. The Turkish parliament approved Kemal's decision to abolish the Ottoman Empire. The Republic of Turkey was proclaimed on October 29, 1923, and Ankara was made its capital. Reforms. Kemal became the first president of the Republic. Beginning in 1925, he introduced sweeping reforms to turn Turkey into a modern secular state. He abolished religious courts and religious instruction in schools, adopted the Western calendar, encouraged the wearing of Western dress, and banned the fez, the traditional Ottoman flat-topped hat. Surnames were introduced. The Roman alphabet replaced Arabic script. Women were given the right to vote in 1930 and to hold public office, and the education system was completely overhauled. Kemal remained as president until his death in 1938. His successor was İsmet İnönü, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, a leading general of the War of Independence fought against Greece. Cyprus. During World War II, Turkey remained neutral, although it declared war on Germany in 1945 in order to take part in the Conference on International Organizations in San Francisco, during which it became one of the founding members of the United Nations. Turkey also joined NATO in 1952, but it had various disputes with its fellow NATO member Greece. During the 1960s, Turkey and Greece nearly went to war over Cyprus, where there was a Turkish Cypriot minority and a Greek Cypriot majority. In 1974, Turkish troops landed on the island in response to the Greek overthrow of the Cypriot president. The result was the partition of the island into the Greek South, which is 2/3 of the territory, called the Republic of Cyprus, and the northern 1/3 occupied by Turkey, which the Turks call the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, or the KKTC. Military and civilian governments. In Turkey itself, the Turkish army has made 3 interventions in the political process. In 1960, the army staged a coup to prevent the government of the time from, as they saw it, reversing Ataturk's reforms. In 1971, armed forces intervened a second time, and in 1980 they took over after several years of serious fighting between left and right-wing extremists. Turkey's armed forces regard themselves as protectors of Ataturk's principles and legacy, and of secularism. The late 1970s in particular were a time of turmoil in Turkey, and after the 1980 coup, the military moved quickly to restore law and order. Turkey's international reputation, however, suffered as many people voiced concerns over human rights abuses during this time. Turkey returned to civilian government in 1983. Some major issues that have dominated politics in Turkey since the 1980s include the rise of the Kurdish nationalist movement and Turkey's now defunct proposed membership to the European Union. In 2003, Turkey played a central role in the run-up to the invasion of Iraq. The country refused to allow the United States military to cross its territory, although it did allow U.S. military planes to use its airspace. In Chapter 3, Landscape and Climate. Turkey covers 301,304 square miles, including 3,791 square miles of water. About 3% of the country lies in Thrace, a region of southeastern Europe. The rest is made up of Anatolia, a mountainous peninsula that is part of Asia. The European and Asian parts of Turkey are divided by the Sea of Marmara and 2 narrow straits, the Dardanelles and the Bosporus. Seas and lakes. Turkey is surrounded by sea on 3 sides. The Black Sea lies to the north, the Aegean Sea to the west, and the Mediterranean Sea to the south. Between the Black and Aegean Seas lies the Sea of Marmara, an enclosed sea that is connected to the Black Sea by the Bosporus Strait and to the Aegean by another narrow sea strait called the Dardanelles. Both the Bosporus and the Dardanelles are important international trade routes because they link the Black Sea to the rest of the world. Turkey also has a large number of lakes, the biggest being Lake Van in the east of the country. Turkey's geographical regions. Many people think of Turkey as having 7 major geographical regions. The Black Sea region is a wild and mountainous area along the country's north coast. High mountain ranges run parallel to the coast, making access to the Black Sea difficult except through a few narrow valleys. Many of the mountain slopes are heavily wooded. In a few places, for example around Samsun and Trabzon, the narrow coastal strip widens into a fertile plain. The Marmara and Aegean regions have extensive fertile plains, which are important areas for agriculture. The Marmara region is one of the most densely populated areas in Turkey. In the south of Anatolia, the Mediterranean region has coastal plains that are separated from the rest of Anatolia by the peaks of the Taurus Mountains. The coastal plains are intensively farmed, with cotton as a major crop. The central Anatolian region covers the middle of Turkey and consists mainly of high plateau land where animals are grazed. Further east is the eastern Anatolian region that is the largest of the country's geographical regions. It is a land of high mountains, including Turkey's highest peak, Mount Ararat, and vast plateaus. Lake Van is situated in these mountain ranges at an altitude of 5,072 feet. It is a very sparsely populated, rugged region where farming is difficult because of the long, harsh winters and steep mountain slopes. Turkey's 7th region, in its southeast, lies south of these mountains. It is a vast area of rolling hills and plateaus, and in the far southwest, high mountains. Turkey's climate. The diversity of landscapes across the country results in marked differences of climate from one region to another. In particular, the coastal mountain ranges have an effect on the climate inland. The Aegean and Mediterranean coasts have Mediterranean climates, with cool, wet winters and hot, dry summers. The Black Sea coast has a lot of rain all year round, with mild winters. The mountains, however, prevent the mild maritime influence from extending inland. Central and eastern Anatolia have a continental climate with hot, dry summers and very cold winters with heavy snowfalls. Temperatures average over 86 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer with little rainfall, while winter temperatures can fall as low as negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Earthquakes. Geologically, Turkey lies on the Anatolian Plate, a minor tectonic plate that is being squeezed between 3 major plates, the Eurasian Plate to the north and the African and Arabian plates to the south. The boundary where these plates meet is called the North Anatolian Fault, and it extends from east of Erzincan to Izmit, through the Sea of Marmara, and into the northern Aegean. As a result of the movement of these plates along the fault line, Turkey is one of the most earthquake-prone places in the world. Earthquakes often occur in groups over a number of years, moving either eastward or westward along the fault. For example, between 1939 and 1944, several major earthquakes moved gradually westward along the fault. The 1939 earthquake devastated the city of Erzincan, causing more than 30,000 deaths. After the Izmit earthquake of 1999, experts are worried that the next big earthquake could hit Istanbul directly. Actually, the last big earthquake happened about a month before I'm filming this now, in March 2023. So I am leaving a link down in the description to a charity that, if you haven't given already, and if you are able to help out the people in the earthquake ruined areas of Turkey and Syria as well. So that is it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I wish I could read more of this book, but it's all terribly out of date, as you can tell by all there's like a whole chapter about joining the EU, which is not happening, so we're skipping the rest of the book. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night. Good night.